Every Day is a New Day podcast and live show. The inspirational show about moving forward and choosing to be more of you. Transmuting the self-doubt and stepping into courageously aligned confidence in who you uniquely are. My name is Kim O'Neill. I'm a twice certified transformational confidence coach, Reiki master, best-selling author, and former crime analyst who now helps empathic, heart-centered individuals shatter the noise of self-doubt, find clarity on what self-love really looks like, and the courage to be peacefully grounded in who you've always known you are, from the inside out. Join me for the live shows on Facebook and YouTube, and visit KimO'NeillCoaching.com for more info. Let's get to it. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Every Day is a New Day show. I'm excited as always to be here with you today because today especially we are going to be talking about a very fun topic. We're going to be talking about the power of choosing joy even in uncertainty. So get ready for that. We have a fun guest today. I'm excited to share her with you. But before we get started with any of it, let's take a moment to be fully present right here and right now, standing in your power. And we're going to begin by simply shaking off yesterday. Shaking off yesterday, shaking off the 5 seconds before you tuned in, shaking off whatever might be creeping up for you that is factoring into you fully being present and owning your power. Knowing who you fully are, allowing yourself to fully be who you are, allow yourself to physically shake it off, call back your energy, be present right here, right now. I'm so grateful to be here with you. And for those that are with me live, go ahead and say hello in the comments. We love to interact with you as much as we can. I like to go with the flow in these conversations, but it's good to see. I see some of you are already here. So hello, Helene. I see you here. And hello to Joanne. It is so good to have you guys with us today. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a quote that I found relevant to the topic of joy. And it is a quote by Helen Keller. Your success and happiness lies in you. Resolve to keep happy, and your joy and you shall form an invincible host against difficulties. I think that's just such a wonderful quote. That's definitely one of those ones to like read again, think about again, ponder on. So anyway, if you want to snapshot that and think about that, go ahead and feel free to take a snapshot of that. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you who today's guest is, and then I will bring her up on screen. So today's guest is Elena Sonnino. She is a life coach, yin yoga teacher, and the author of Inhabit Your Joy, a book of nudges. Elena brings sparks of energy to everything she does and is on a mission to help you transform the walls of survival mode into doors of possibility so you can step into the spotlight of your life. She helps you get out of your head and into your body as your source of wisdom and moves you from beyond the shoulds and into delight one day at a time. And how fitting and perfect is that for today? With that, I'm going to go ahead and bring her up on screen. Hello, Elena.
Hello, Kim. Oh my goodness. I shook with you. I was delighted with you. Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I want to just share with everyone who's with us today, we may encounter a little delay in our audio today. So just bear with us. That's what's taking place. But we're going to have a fun conversation because that's what we're choosing in this moment. So, Elena, yeah.
And if there is a pause, if there is a pause, it's an excellent time to just take a breath. How's that? Or to do some extra shaking. We'll make the most of it. They're intentional pauses.
Excellent. An intentional pause to absolutely receive, be in the present moment of that joy. Let it savor it a little longer.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm here for all of that. I hope everyone will join us on that invitation.
Yes. Okay, Elena. So let me just first ask you, what drew you to this space of being this person that's really this, advocate for joy, and why this is something you like to share with people?
Yes. So I love that, being an advocate for joy. I have always, and I say for better or worse, because there can be a shadow side to this, been someone who sees possibility. And who, when I was younger, they called me the silver linings girl, right? And there's an element of really noticing celebrations, possibility. And I've also had moments in my life, seasons really, where that felt really hard to do. And yet this choice to celebrate, to be so fully immersed in our aliveness, was presented to me by a doctor that I had once. I was preparing to receive a donor egg. This was, my daughter is now, I just gave it away, almost 18, but I wasn't supposed to be able to have a child because I had Hodgkin's lymphoma and then a bone marrow transplant. And it just wasn't, I was in early menopause in my late 20s. And we were going through this process. I was 2 weeks away from receiving this donor egg. And this was back in the time when there were actually binders where you read about the donors, like paper binders. And the doctor called me that morning and said, so I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you're about 5 weeks pregnant. And I burst into these sobbing tears because this wasn't supposed to happen. This was the thing I wanted most in the world. And yet, and I was mad. I was like, this thing is being given to me and then it's going to be taken away. The doctor let me sob. He let me have my tears. And then he said, so look, you have two choices. You can grieve or you can celebrate until the day you can't. And I went, oh, option B. Right? Sign me up. I didn't even have to think about it. It was instinctive. And that has always been this choice of choosing to be so fully in the moment, even when we don't know what's going to happen, right? Even in that uncertainty. And that 5-week-old grain of rice that I met on the ultrasound the next day is now turning 18 this fall. Wow. So here we go. Right? It's life.
No, that's amazing. Continue.
Well, life is uncertain, right? It's complicated. It's messy. It isn't all rainbows and unicorns and pixie dust. And this is perhaps the shadow side of me being so often in that silver lining, is that sometimes not really allowing myself to feel and absorb the moments. And so I've since, really moved through this practice of choosing joy as a part of the full experience. So not in exclusion of the other moments, but as the and. And to me, joy is a celebration of the and. It's a celebration of little moments, of big moments, and everything in between.
That's a powerful story. And what I'm hearing is it's like I'm seeing it as, joy tends to be kind of this like secondary thing. And I know this is kind of what you're speaking to, but like joy tends to be the secondary choice. And it sounds like you're saying, no, let it be the primary choice, regardless of what else is going on.
Absolutely. Let it be the metric, right? So often we use metrics like productivity or finances or, the amount of things that we accomplished as our metrics of success. But joy is its own metric of success. It gets to be a journey that we allow ourselves to experience. And the other thing that I would say is, not only does it not have to come secondary, it can come first, almost like fuel, right? We fuel up our cars, we fuel our body with good food. Why wouldn't we fuel ourselves with joy? And it also isn't something that we need to put on a pedestal, wait for the weekend to achieve, wait for vacation, wait for retirement, whatever it is. I love creating little mini moments of joy, right? If it's just sitting outside my window and looking at the cardinal that happens to be at the bird feeder, right? Just allowing unexpected delight to find me and to savor it for even just a moment, to let it linger. And that's where then we absorb it and it becomes nourishment.
So what this is also bringing to mind is those moments when you have something that feels like it came out of left field, and it feels like, oh no, everything's, not going as planned or as desired. The universe isn't going to give me what I want. And what I have seen multiple times is that those are the moments, those precise moments are the moments you want to make sure to make that choice to choose joy, to go, oh, I don't know what's coming next. The universe clearly has a different plan, because in that moment, if we allow ourselves to simply assume that all is lost, things aren't working out, and now we're just miserable about it, that also in some way is assuming that we know better than the universe. And we are not trusting in that co-creative process. And so that's something that, like, it's taken a while for me to really like absorb that and see how that plays out. But that can almost be like an extra layer of fun to it, because it's like, ooh, I see this really horrible thing happening, and oh my goodness, that means something extra exciting is about to happen. I just have to remain in that space of joy. And I want to say trust, faith as well. So,
Oh, absolutely. Trust it's actually the quality, the exploration that I am deeply practicing right now. This idea of, because the other thing that happens with joy is this, at least for me, I have this little whisper of, yeah, but good things don't last. Right. And that comes from having been diagnosed when I was 23. I had gotten engaged 6 days before. I was living my very best life at 23. So many years ago. And then this thing happened. Right. And so the old narrative that I have is, good things don't last, or when is the other shoe going to drop? So there is this really powerful, I think joy requires to some degree trust and allowing. Maybe there's like a reciprocal energy to it. I think they feed themselves.
that makes total
it's like
sense.
An infinity symbol. I like how you did that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have another question for Elena, but before we get there, I want to say a quick hello to Betty, who has also joined us. Hello, Betty. It is good to see you here. And everyone else who's joined us but who has not chimed in, it's always good to have you here with us as well. So, Elena, I think what you just started to say is a really fantastic segue into how a person can be more rooted in their joy and pleasure. Will you tell us more about, what does that mean and look like for a person to be rooted in their joy and pleasure?
Yes. So being rooted, right? We hear these terms, rooted, grounding, centered, a lot. And to me, there's this idea of what are we rooted in? What is our foundation built on with, right? What are we literally supported by? So we can be supported and rooted in joy. Absolutely. We could also be rooted, supported, present in the moment and in our senses, right? In nature. But perhaps most importantly, and to me, the best gateway portal to joy is being rooted in our body, right? Of being in connection, in relationship with this thing that we walk around with each day that helps us be in the world, because it's through our body that we experience things through our senses. I don't know about you, Kim, but the moments of joy that I remember from my childhood, I remember through sensory memories, the smell of jasmine in my great grandmother and then grandmother's yard in Venice, Italy, right? Or the sun on me at the beach, right? I remember them through our senses. And so there's this invitation to really be present. And that helps us. I came across a quote last year. It was, the more rooted we are, the higher we can fly, or something along that line, those lines. Right?
That makes
this idea of
that. It's okay. That makes total sense because what I have experienced is that my spiritual journey has actually brought me to appreciate the physical journey even more, because it's through being present in this body that we actually can carry out those things that we want to manifest and all of that energetic stuff. So I'm totally resonating with this. Yeah, go ahead and continue.
Yeah. Well, and it's this idea, right? So how do we get rooted? And especially in our bodies. And it's that idea of just coming in, whether it's 3 breaths, which is why I love how you start each show, right? The shaking, the releasing, because there's an opportunity to let go of the stuff that is stagnant, that doesn't serve us, to allow things to move through us
Yeah.
and then become really present. And the body becomes that gateway, right? It is that invitation inward into the heart, into our intuition, into that deep sense of knowing that we have. We also can be rooted in that deep knowing, in our power, in our resiliency, right? So there's this element of really creating a home base for ourselves and coming back home to ourselves instead of, because here's the other thing about being rooted, a lot of us seek out joy from external sources, or we use external sources as the metric that provides us joy. But this idea of being rooted in ourselves and coming home to ourselves is an inquiry, is an invitation to say, okay, could I be my own supplier of joy?
That is, I mean, talk about coming into your own power and owning who you are and what you're capable of, which is truly limitless. I mean, that's a big aha moment for anybody who's in that space right now. Yeah, I love that. Wait, tell us more. So let's speak a little bit, just a little bit more about the power of the body and our breath specifically. Talk about say a little more about the breath.
Oh, as I take a breath, the breath is this, right? The breath to me is a constant reminder of the energy that is ours to receive and experience and share. And I was probably not somebody who focused on breath for the first, I don't know, 2/3 of my life. And as I started to explore my own yoga practice, my own breathwork practices, and really begin to integrate that into my regular just state of being, and not just doing it, but really practicing and allowing it to be a part of who I was, there was always an invitation. And what I find so powerful about the breath as an invitation into the body is we instinctively know how to breathe. We don't actually have to force it or change it or do anything. So there's this opportunity to get really curious through our breath, right? Where do I receive the breath? How does it feel today? Where do I experience the release of the breath as it moves through me? Right? It's a bit like a gift and a magnifying lens all at the same time, right? Just this ability to really receive the present moment and then allow that to be experienced and savored and released. So to me, coming home to the breath in whatever way you do it is
Yeah.
always a beautiful invitation.
I had something I was going to say, and it kind of walked away. But if it comes back, then I'll say it. I think it was something along the lines of just simply, as we were acknowledging that, of course, our bodies automatically breathe. Kind of that again, remembrance of, oh, I already have all the tools. Oh, I already right. Yeah.
100%. Like I can't jump up and down for that enough.
Yeah. 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 Oh, okay. Okay. So now you talk about like being aware of of noticing what is working. Tell us more about the practice of noticing what is working.
So the practice of noticing what is working really is meant to counteract the effect of the brain's negativity bias, right? Our brain is trained to look for the things that aren't working, the things that are going wrong. It's from that fight or flight response, it's constantly on guard. But to intentionally be on the lookout or celebrate or notice or allow ourselves to linger in this question of what is working reminds us that there's an and something. It could be raining and, right, you've done something else has worked, for instance, it's raining and it's gray and my wildflowers are getting watered, right? So in a way that's working because I don't have to be out there to water them. But so it reminds us of the and, that everything is not, that things are not mutually exclusive of one another. It is a bit like tending to creating a muscle or learning a foreign language, to start to become fluent with progress versus the destination being the ultimate goal. I don't know about you, Kim, but I used to be a perpetually unsatisfied goal setter. I would set goals and achieve them and be like, yeah, but, and I did this, the example that comes to mind is running marathons.
Okay.
For me.
Wow.
What about you? Have you ever been a perpetually unsatisfied goal setter?
Not in that, I wouldn't phrase it in that way for me, but I have had these moments where I think, oh my goodness, what happens when I achieve that big goal? And then what? And then it's almost as if, and I want to cancel this out as soon as I say it, but it's almost as if, well, then how about I never achieve that? So I always know that I have something good to achieve, something high to look forward towards, look forward to, move towards. And I can continue to just work on like these little things down here. That has been a thing for me that I've had to like, no, Kim, once you achieve the big one, there's going to be something even bigger. There's always another thing. And I wanted to just go back to the and part of what you were saying. I love that. The and, I mean, that's a fantastic way to really begin to cultivate positivity and see that there's beauty in every moment. There's a gift in every moment. That is something that I'm really big on. So I love that you framed it in the way of looking at the and. That's great.
Yes. And, something you just said reminds me, and I have it written upstairs and I can't remember who said it, so forgive me, but there's a quote I have written in my meditation space, and it's, every day is a gift, untie the ribbons.
Ooh.
There's probably another word in there, but it's this just reminder of every day offers us a gift. If only we choose to untie that ribbon, right? To be present enough with it, to be moving perhaps slowly enough to notice that there's a gift, and then to actively and intentionally untie it and really linger with it.
I think
yes, this,
the key word, it's okay. The key word of slowly, what you just said right there. I mean, for some people that may not be a key, but for a lot of other people, and I'm going to say probably a lot of people here in America, there's a lot of go always. And it might simply be, wait, just slow it down a little, just roll it back a little bit, take a moment to pause. Like you were talking about earlier at the beginning of the show, if there's a pause, right, that's a moment to then see the gift to, yeah. So I just want to point that out, that it might be pertinent to slow down, and then it's easier to see the gift that we're talking about.
So it's so funny, Kim, because, I published this book this year, and on the day that the book launched, January 31st, I went to walk my dog in the morning. And this was a day that, as much as I know that expectations are my kryptonite and that curiosity is my antidote, I had built up this day, right? So there I went to walk the dog. And I live in Northern Virginia, so the winters are kind of wacky. And I remember thinking, oh, I shouldn't walk on the sidewalk because it might be icy. So I walked on the road, and then I ended up on the sidewalk somehow. Well, guess what happened? Oh. I slipped on the ice and broke my wrist, my right wrist, and I'm right-handed. It was literally as if the universe was saying, hey, you've just done this big thing. Perhaps slow down and savor this without being needing it to be a machine, which was never the intent of the book. But so I have been constantly reminded, it's not about the doing, it's about the being. It's about creating space for those little moments, even the ones that, we land on the ground.
What a fascinating story that is so with such a deeper meaning. I'm so grateful that the universe allowed you to finish the book, let it come out first. That's good. And yes. And I want to get back to the book in just a moment, but I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge some of our guest comments. We have Betty saying, living into joyful expectation. I put my paint of joy as a reminder to stay with it. How beautiful, Betty. And Betty is a painter, so I know that that's very fitting for her. And we have down here, Joel is saying, yes, everything is always working out for me. Yes, Joel, absolutely. That is a fantastic way to sum up. I love that phrase myself. Fantastic way to sum up the joy in everything. And Helene is saying, amen, to receive the gift of all. Yes. Wonderful. Well, okay. So your book, let's tell everyone about your book. Your book is titled Inhabit Your Joy, a book of nudges. And would you like to say a little bit more about the book itself?
Sure. So this book, what's interesting about this book is I had to do a few things to get this book written. One of them was to allow it to be joyful, because even though, right, this is what I embody and what I believe in, sometimes we get in our own way. Mm-hmm. And so I had to allow this process to be as delightful as possible and to make it as uncomplicated as possible. And so when I thought about what I would write about and why I wanted to write the book, I wanted it to be something that, even before I knew exactly what it was going to be, would be read and then shared from friend to friend and would create ripples of possibility, of joy in people's lives. And so when I thought about it from that, I realized, well, so my clients and my friends and my family have always said that I offer nudges, occasionally a gentle shove, but the nudges, right, of a question or a practice or a noticing. And so this book is written as a collection of nudges. I think there are 36 nudges, and they are divided into 3 sections: being rooted, being curious, and being alive. And it's meant that you can, it can sit on your desk or on your nightstand, and you can just open to it and allow a nudge to find you, which is how I love to do it. So
I love books like
book,
that.
And me too.
Do you have it there right now? Would you like to just randomly open and share one of the? Yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I do. Let's see. And I always just take a breath, right? Okay. So the book is written, there's a nudge, and then there's a little bit of context or a story for each nudge. And so we got be curious, number 1. What are you curious about? And the nudge itself is really rooted in this idea of we've stopped listening to our instincts, right? And we've stopped listening. And so there's this opportunity for us to just brainstorm. Children are born curious. Animals are born curious, to rebuild that muscle within ourselves. So the nudge is simply give yourself 5 minutes to brainstorm. What are you curious about? What are you feeling drawn to or intrigued by? Just because. The only rule to this brainstorm is not to censor yourself. Let whatever bubbles up go onto your list. That's the nudge.
I love that. That's really definitely embodying that space of curiosity and opening things up so a person can see they have more tools available to them to bring in that joy, to be in that energy. That's fantastic. I love that.
Thank you. Well, and one of the things, about all of the nudges, but that they become practices to come back to what it is that makes us, right? And that nudge in particular is an invitation to reconnect, to get back into dialogue with our intuition, with our instincts, with those core parts of ourself that maybe we're moving so fast we've stopped listening to. Yeah. Right. So it's every good, right? We are built for connection. And so often we seek out the external connections, but to inhabit our joy is to be deeply connected to oneself and be able to answer the question, right? What lights you up? Or one of my favorite questions, what would feel delicious today? Ooh. Or what are you curious about?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely am on board with that. I believe it's key to be in connection with ourselves first, because then you really know, like, oh, this is what I really love to do. This is what brings me joy. This is, these are the people in my world who I really love to spend time with. And then, from that space of a connection, oh, let me do more of that. Let me spend more time with those people or doing those things, whatever it may be. So, yeah, that's really key starting place.
Yeah, well, and what I love about that is it reminded me of the idea of boundary, right? So often we think of boundaries as the things to create a boundary about what we want to keep out. But what I love to talk about is, okay, but what about the boundary that we're creating space, the inside stuff that we want to create space for? And so
Yes.
when we come into knowledge and connection with what it is that lights us up, and that's one of the things that, a lot of my clients, and I'm sure you see this, is people aren't necessarily sure what it is that lights them up anymore, or they say they aren't, right? And it's sometimes because we're out of practice. And so it
Yes.
really is a coming back into practice.
When you've been in that go, go, go mode, operating so quickly, doing so many things and not fully being present in our body, then yes, it can be so easy to forget and not know what brings you joy, what's fun for you, what you really value. And then that's where the years pass by and you go, oh, wait a second, I didn't really do certain things that meant most to me. And I lost some of that time, but I don't really like to look at it that way. But that might be the initial way we look at it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's also where we live in shoulds, right? Where we've
Yes.
started to operate on shoulds or expectations of others versus those things that feel like our own true north.
Yeah. Well, Elena, and I want to say to everyone that that yes, Elena's name is pronounced Elena, not Elena. I don't know. That's so important to have that full awareness of stuff like that. I want people's names to always be pronounced the way that they're supposed to be pronounced. So, okay, I'm starting to overthink that statement. Is there a should in there? Is there a should in there?
There is no should. Yeah. It's an honoring. Thank you. We'll
Okay,
take it.
I appreciate, thank you. Yes, it is an honoring. There we go. Okay, so with that, Elena, something I have been asking guests this season is about what is something, that you do that's creative or fun for you. And I just would just love to share those things because, there can be a lot of variance in what is fun for some people. I had one guest tell me that being an entrepreneur is fun, and that was like his legit answer. And it's like, okay, that's not my answer, but that's okay. Like everyone finds fun in different things. So for you, what's something fun or creative that you like to do that allows you to be in that space of joy?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things is that I love to do is, I have an example because it lives on my desk. I have started over the last few years taking great joy in propagating plants. So I've become a gardener, and so gardening in general, but I have all of these plants. And if you looked around my office right now, you would laugh. But as they grow and perhaps too big for a container, I do cuttings and then I put them in water. And I don't know if you can see that there are roots growing. So it actually brings me great joy, right? And this is a succulent, to have these on my desk and to just kind of check in with how are the roots right now? Are they ready for soil? Right. And that process of tending to them. So that is something. And my husband laughs. He's like, more plants? I mean, if you keep doing cuttings, like, that means there are going to be more plants in the house. I'm like, it is indeed. But I just read an article about the studies show like indoor plants help our mood, help us just feel centered. So it is good for our mental health. And I'm sticking to it. But that is the thing that's bringing me great joy right now, is tending to my plants.
I think that's awesome. To me, I then initially think of gardening, but propagating is clearly different from like traditional gardening. And what I love about that is it really, to me, it brings forth that word aliveness that you used earlier. It's you're creating more and more aliveness.
I am. And it's total curiosity and creativity, because full transparency, I know very little about the plants, right? I'm like, oh, I wonder if this will work. And there are some plants that I've learned that don't grow roots when they're in water. And yet
Okay.
others, so And so there are some that I've learned, I'm like, okay, actually they don't like growing roots in water. You can put them directly in soil, but there's an element that's required of curiosity for me to be in that place. So as someone who isn't, an expert in all things plants, it's really fun for me to experiment and be curious about it. And I see that as an act of creativity. I doodle and I do different things here and there, but to me, that's kind of the ultimate. And then arranging them and putting them together, I take great joy in that.
I think it's fantastic that this is something you're still learning about, because you're not allowing yourself to be stopped by the fact that you don't fully know everything about propagating it. You're just going with it. And what I see is you're recognizing, oh, this thing brings me joy, I'm going to do it. There's not but I don't know what I'm doing, therefore I won't do it. You're just simply allowing yourself to stay with that flow and continue to do it. So that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Thank you. And I'm learning along the way, right? I have a plant that I did propagate and it grew roots, and I put it in soil. And then this happened about a month or two ago, and I put it in soil and I put it in a spot that I thought was going to be right for it based on its mother plant. And the leaves started to turn yellow.
Okay.
And so I could feel like some of the inner critic, oh, I did something wrong, right? Oh, what's happening? And so I gave it more water, which is rarely the solution, interestingly. And that didn't help. And then I thought about moving it. And then I thought, well, maybe I should just read about this plant. Maybe if I found out like the naming of something and it's accurate, right? So I read about it. And what I found out about this particular plant, the Dracaena, is that its leaves actually turn yellow as it's growing because it sheds the old leaves. Right, so that the new leaves could grow. And I went, oh, and I love a great metaphor. And I was like, that. So then it was okay for the leaves to turn yellow and fall because it was growing.
It was just as it was meant to be. That was actually an indication that things were on track, not the assumption of, oh, if it's doing this, that must mean this, which might apply to a different plant, but not this one. That's awesome.
Not this one.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. So, Elena, I know people can connect with you on your website at elenasonnino.com. And I'm going to spell that out for all of our audio podcast listeners. That is ELENAS as in Sam, ONNINO.com, elenasonnino.com. And would you like to tell everyone a little bit more about how they can connect with you, or what they, a little bit more about what happens when they connect with you on their website, on your website?
Yeah. So if you go to the website, you'll find a few things. If you scroll down, there's actually a box that says Find Your Joy. And if you put your email in there, then I'll send you a 10-minute yin yoga practice to help you fill up on what nourishes you in your body to really practice finding your joy. So that's there for you. You'll also see some just fun pictures and photographs and get to learn about some of the retreats that I lead and groups that I facilitate. The other place where I love to hang out is Instagram. That's my, without being on social media too much or trying to not be on social media too much, if I'm on social, it's usually Instagram. So that's another good place to find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to know. And I want to remind everyone about Elena's new book, Inhabit Your Joy, a book of nudges. And where can they go to purchase a copy of that, to get a copy?
You can go actually directly to my website. There's a link. It says the book at the top, and that'll take you to either bookshop.org, which supports local booksellers, or of course, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, where you can find it as well.
Oh, I love that. I love that you have something to help support local booksellers. That's really cool.
They hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Elena, it was wonderful having you here today. Thank you so much. Do you have any final words before I'm just going to drop you back down into lobby for a moment and close out the show. But before I do you have any final words you'd like to share with everyone?
No, it was a delight to be here. Thank you, Kim. And I think the last invitation that I would offer is, one of the ways to help you find your joy is, and I alluded to it before, is this question that I love to ask myself is, what would feel delicious today? And you can ask yourself that in the morning or in the afternoon, or, at any time to just really tap into what is it that would feel delicious today, and let whatever answer bubble up. But thank you again, Kim.
You're so
And the whole
welcome.
community. It was delightful to spend this time with you.
It was a pleasure having you here. Yeah, if you don't mind, so it'll just be a couple minutes. I'm just going to close out the show and then I'll see you back down in the lobby. Okay, cool. So here we go. Wasn't that fun? Isn't it fun to talk about joy and to be reminded that in everything, regardless of how it's going, things are always working out for you, and there can always be something delicious out of what's taking place, right? I personally love that, and I hope that you found this conversation to be supportive to you in strengthening that muscle. We talked a lot about the body today too, right? And the aliveness and being present in your body, connecting with yourself first. Such great conversation. Thank you, Elena, again. Appreciate that. So yes, you know what? I hope you are allowing yourself to find the joy and find the gift in every moment, even if on the surface it doesn't look as you think it's supposed to look. That's the magic. That's the magic moment right there. Remember, you are in co-creation with the universe. You set those intentions. You say, yes, this is what I want to see more of. And oh, plot twist. Ooh, how is it going to get even better than this? It can get so much better beyond our imagination when we allow ourselves to be in that space of trust. And the fun of it, the deliciousness of it, is allowing ourselves to really embrace the joy, embrace what feels good, and not take time away by questioning it. So let me know, as always, what you were taking away from this conversation. How did you receive it? What did it bring up for you? I see Joanne saying, super show. Thank you. And Helene is saying, amen in joy. Absolutely. And remember to listen to yourself. Helene is saying, remember to listen to yourself every now and then and keep laughing out loud. I love that. Thank you, Helene. Appreciate the reminder about the laughing. That's such a good one. With that said, remember that you can always connect with me over at KimO'NeillCoaching.com and learn more about the Every Day is a New Day show and my coaching and meditation services as well. And last but not least, remember that every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. And it simply takes remembering that you have choice in every moment, every situation, regardless of what's happening. Have an amazing day. I hope you will choose you, and I'll see you again very, very soon.